He was voted out of power on the same day his country won the war. A war he had fought for 6 years. A war he had refused to lose when everyone around him said it was over. They celebrated victory, and then they told him to go home. And he went. Without bitterness. Without anger. Because he understood something that most people never learn. Success is not about being remembered. It is about doing what is right, while you still can.
English with Famous Minds podcast. Listen, learn, imagine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vicky, and this is English with Famous Minds podcast, the show where you learn real English by talking with the most fascinating people in history. Not a language lesson, not a history class. Both. At the same time. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now, because every episode you will meet someone who changed the world, and you will understand them in English. Today's guest led Britain through its darkest moment. He was a soldier, a writer, a painter, and one of the greatest leaders in history, Winston Churchill. Welcome.
Thank you, Vicky. I must warn you. I have never been known for short answers.
Winston, you are famous for your leadership during World War II, but before that, you had many failures. Can you tell us about that?
Where would you like me to start? I failed my entrance exam to military school. Twice. I was responsible for a military disaster at Gallipoli in World War I. I made terrible economic decisions as Chancellor. I spent 10 years in what people called the wilderness, completely out of power, ignored by everyone. By any measure, I was a failure for most of my life.
And yet you became one of the greatest leaders in history. How do you explain that?
I never stopped. That is the only explanation. Every time I failed, I got up. Not because I was brave, but because staying down felt worse than getting up. Success is not the absence of failure. It is the result of continuing despite it.
Did you ever feel like giving up?
Many times. But I had a rule. I was allowed to feel despair privately, but publicly. I had to show strength, not because I was pretending, but because people needed something to believe in. A leader who shows only weakness gives their people nothing to hold on to.
Let's talk about those 10 years in the wilderness. You were completely ignored by your own party. Nobody wanted to listen to you. How did you survive that?
I painted. I wrote. I built walls with my own hands at my home. I kept my mind busy and my hands busy, because an idle mind is a dangerous place for a person like me. I have always struggled with what I called my black dog, my depression. Keeping busy was my way of keeping it at bay.
You have spoken openly about depression. That was very unusual for a man of your time.
It was not something I chose to advertise, but I believe in honesty. Depression is not weakness, it is an illness, and pretending it does not exist makes it stronger. I fought it the same way I fought everything else, by refusing to let it win.
How did you manage it day to day?
Routine. I woke up at the same time every day. I worked in bed every morning for several hours. I painted in the afternoon when I could. I never missed a meal, and I never stopped writing. Structure gives the mind something to hold on to when everything else feels unstable.
When you became Prime Minister in 1940, the situation was desperate. France had fallen. Most of your own government wanted to make peace with Hitler. How did you find the strength to say no?
because I understood what saying yes would mean. Not just for Britain, for the whole world. Some decisions are bigger than one person's comfort, bigger than one country's safety. I was not fighting for Britain alone. I was fighting for the idea that free people have the right to stay free. That idea was worth any price.
Were you ever truly afraid that you would lose?
Yes, in the summer of 1940, we were very close to the edge. But I have always believed that fear is only useful if it motivates you. If it paralyzes you, it becomes your enemy. So I used it. I let it sharpen my thinking. And I kept moving.
Your speeches during that time are still remembered today. Where did that power come from?
From believing what I was saying. You cannot move people with words you do not believe. I have heard many speeches in my life that were technically perfect and completely empty. The words that change history come from people who mean every single one of them.
You mentioned painting earlier. You started painting in your 40s, during one of your darkest moments. What did art give you that politics could not?
Silence. When I was painting, I was not a politician. I was not a leader. I was just a man looking at light and color. Nobody needed anything from me. Nobody was waiting for a decision. It was the only time in my life when I could be completely alone with myself. And I found that very necessary.
Do you think every leader needs something like that?
Every human being needs something like that. A place where you are not your role, not your title, not your responsibilities, just yourself. Without that, you lose track of who you are. And a leader who does not know who they are is very dangerous.
You were also a prolific writer. You won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1953. How did writing help you?
Writing forced me to think clearly. You cannot write something confusing and pretend you understand it. The page is very honest. If your thinking is unclear, your writing will show it immediately. I wrote to understand, not just to be understood.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to write better?
Use short words, use simple sentences, say what you mean, and mean what you say. The most powerful writing in history is almost always very simple. Complexity is often just confusion dressed up in long words.
After the war, you were voted out of power on the very day of victory. How did that feel?
Like a kick in the stomach. I will not pretend otherwise, but I understood it. People were exhausted. They wanted change. They wanted to build something new. And perhaps they needed someone different to do that. My job was the war. The war was over. It was time to step back.
That is a very mature way to see it.
It took time to see it that way. In the moment, it was painful. But history is long, and in the long view, what matters is not whether you were thanked. What matters is whether you did what was needed. I believe I did. That is enough.
What do you think about the world today?
I think people have forgotten how fragile freedom is. It took centuries to build, and it can be lost much faster than that. Every generation must choose to defend it, not just with armies, but with words, with votes, with courage. Freedom is not something you inherit. It is something you earn, every single day.
And for someone today who feels powerless, who feels that one person cannot make a difference,
One person is exactly how everything starts. Every movement in history began with one person who refused to accept things as they were. You do not need to change the world alone. You just need to start, and trust that others will follow. They usually do.
One last question, Winston. What is the most important thing you learned from your life?
Never, never, never give up. Not on what matters, not on what is right. The road will be long, it will be painful. There will be moments when everything seems lost. Keep going anyway. History belongs to the people who keep going.
Winston, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Vicky. It has been a genuine pleasure. And now, if you will excuse me, I believe I left a painting unfinished.
Winston Churchill, everyone. Now I want to hear from you. Churchill said, "Never, never, never give up." What is the one thing in your life that you have been thinking about giving up? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you are new here. And share this episode with someone who needs to hear it today. See you in the next episode.
English with Famous Minds podcast. Listen, learn, imagine.